proceed with the item on the agenda, I need to remind you of the usual housekeeping messages. There are no fire alarms test planned for this evening, so if the alarm sounds, please leave the chamber by the nearest door. Then follow the illuminated fire signs and assemble in the car park at the rear of the building. You have the right to film this meeting if you so wish, but I would like to know before we begin whether anyone in the room plans to do this. If you intend filming the meeting or part of it, would you please indicate now? Finally, would you all please ensure that your phones and tablet devices are on silent mode? And the first item on this agenda is apologies for absence. Looks like I've just got one apology here, which is Councillor Sorensen. Is there any more apologies? No, that's fine. The next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve this evening. Can I please have a proposal for the minutes of the council meeting held on 20th of April 2023 be approved as a correct record?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to propose those, Madam Mayor, and just for the benefit of new members, I know, Madam Mayor, this is in your script as well, but only members who were present can vote, so new members, please don't vote. We don't need to abstain either, you can just stay out of it.
Is there a seconder for the proposal?
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose any amendments? Would those members present at the 20th of April meeting who are in favour of confirming the minutes as a correct record, please indicate now. That's carried. Thank you very much. The minutes of the, obviously, 20th is confirmed. Can I please have a proposal that the minutes of the annual council meeting held on 18th of May 2023 be approved as a correct record?
Happy to propose those, Madam Mayor.
Is there a seconder for the proposal?
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose any amendments? No. Would those members present at the 18th of May annual council meeting who are in favour of confirming the minutes as a correct record, please indicate. Yeah, yes, thank you. The meetings that's confirmed, thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 3, the declaration of interest. Do any members or officers have an interest to declare at any items included on the agenda? No? Okay. The next item is item 4, announcements. So I'd just like to welcome the two Warren councillors. Is it Councillor Blair and Councillor Brian Stevenson this evening?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm obliged to you. I think it's very nice in a sort of a non-political
Brian, sit down. I was welcoming you and not to start. I know. Well, thank you very much for that. And I'm sure this evening you're going to tell me. Okay. Thank you. Obviously, at the annual meeting, as you know, I didn't announce any of my charities because obviously I didn't realise I was carrying on another year. But I did say this year I'm going to support 3 local charities. So I'd just like to say a few words about the charities I'm going to support this year. One is Headway, which is a charity that supports people with life-changing brain injuries. As you know, brain injuries can challenge every aspect of your life, walking, talking, thinking and feeling. And the losses can be severe and permanent. It can mean losing both the life you once lived and the person you once was. So their aim for the Headway is to provide information, social activities and support patients, family and friends. So that's Headways I'm supporting. The next one is Sam's Place. The charity was founded following the death of a 9-year-old Sam Ronson from Hambleton in 2007. Sam's Place is a small local charity that support young people aged 15 plus who have physical, sensory or learning disabilities, life-reducing conditions or complex needs. So the charity provides opportunities to encourage independence and aim to develop life and creative skills while making new friends and having fun. And the third one I'm going to support this year is the Fleetwood Beach Wheelchairs, which offer wheelchairs users the chance to enjoy the coastline. The chairs are specially designed to be light and easy and to be manoeuvred over sand and shingle. These chairs offer wheelchair users the chance to be able to go onto the beach for the first time in years, or for some the first time. So as sometimes these things that we take for granted. So they're my 3 chosen charities that I'm going to support this year. So I hope you can all support with them with me. Thank you very much. Okay. So the next item is item 5, public questions or statements. However, there are no questions from the public this evening. So the next item is questions notice from councillors. Again, there are no questions on notice from councillors, so we'll move to the next item, which is the executive report. So the first report is the leader of the council. So Councillor, would you like to introduce your report, please?
Madam Mayor, I have much to report before members. I did attend the Blackpool Fire and Wild EPB. It refers at 3.1 to the East Lancashire Chambers of Commerce, but doesn't say too much about what that means. As part of our Share Prosperity Fund monies, we are working, we have engaged or will engage the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce, who have the most experience of anybody across Lancashire in working with businesses to help them to reduce their carbon footprint. It appeared on the EPB agenda, it didn't really get discussed at the EPB, but because Fylde and Wire are in the process of doing the same. So there'll be a pan-Fylde coach approach to that, which is good because it means that you don't have to say to businesses at 200 yards apart in anchor zone, why do you go to this person, why do you go to the other person? There's a pan-Fylde coach approach. So that's positive. And staying on climate change, Madam Mayor, something we've talked about with the senior officers for a while that I can confirm is definitely going ahead now is our fleet at Wire is responsible for a huge amount of our carbon emissions, and by switching our fleet from diesel to hybrid vegetable oil, we will be able to save around 90% of our emissions from our fleet, which accounts to between 20 and 30% of the council's whole carbon emissions. There's a cost to the council, as there always is with these things, but actually in terms of value for money, it's quite a brilliant saving on carbon. It's about £60,000 or so per year. Now, if you think about the fact that to decarbonise our major buildings, we're having to engage using Salix grant funding consultants just to come up with a plan and costing. Just the plans of 170,000. That's not doing any of the work, it's just the plans. So to reduce our carbon footprint by 20 to 30% for £60,000 a year, it's a no-brainer. Happy to take any questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I have got some people that's indicated. So Councillor Fair, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to paragraph 2, the Lancashire devolution deal, devolving power to Lancashire could be a good thing, provided it's done correctly. Local people are best placed to decide where funding goes. When funding is tight, it's especially crucial that monies are well spent and that they make a lasting and positive difference to the area. As unitaries, Blackpool and Blackburn will seemingly get that local input into decision making, but the 15 district councils won't. It doesn't make sense. How will the decisions be made in the future if this current proposal for Lancashire goes forward? Perhaps the biggest single thing that can help the economic regeneration of Fleetwood and Thornton Cleveland, and Wire in general, is the reinstatement of the rail line. How would this get pushed forward if we don't have a seat at the table and a vote? What are your thoughts on this proposal, and what, if anything, do you intend to do to get us into a position where we can actually fight our corner more easily? Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do think that local voices are important, and that's why the plan that we agreed at Lancashire and District Leaders involved the districts having a seat at the table. Unfortunately, government are against that. The key difference between ourselves and Blackburn is, as he says, the unitary authorities. The government are devolving power to upper tier authorities, and we are not an upper tier authority. In terms of having a voice, our voice comes through Lancashire County Council. Everybody in Wyre has a vote for their representative on Lancashire County Council, so they are as interested in Wyre, perhaps not quite as concentrated that interest in Wyre as we are. So I don't accept that we wouldn't have a local voice, but hopefully his reassurance comes from the fact that we as Wyre won't be walking away from one of the two non-voting seats. Those seats are important to give local people a voice and to give district councils a voice, and the way it is certainly been discussed to date, although nothing's written down yet, is that district leaders will nominate a leader and a deputy leader, and the leader will be from the biggest political group and the deputy leader will be from the second biggest political group, and that they will go to these meetings, and there will be all sorts of subcommittees that sit beneath the main combined authority, and all of those subcommittees will have people on. We might not get a vote, but we'll have a voice, and we can make that voice heard. So it's not ideal. I would like a better voice on it, but if the choice is basically between having that voice and what some of the authorities are saying they want, which is just to walk away and have nothing to do with it, then we'll still be at the table.
Thank you. Councillor Higginson, you...
Sorry, in terms of this question on the railway line,
Right, sorry.
it is absolutely still important, and whether we have a voting seat there or not, we will be pushing them for it. It's massively important to the MPs, and regardless of how this proceeds, the fact that we're not having a mayor means it's unlikely that transport will be devolved anyway, so that will still go through the MPs regardless.
Thank you. Councillor Higginson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted 24 years ago, well, it's good to be back. Question for the leader. I don't know if you're aware, but shortly after the election, my colleagues from Bournemouth had a meeting with residents on Brown Street, and that was attended by the County Councillor as well, Councillor Kay, and the meeting was over parking, or the lack of it, and it's a dreadful situation that exists there. Some of the residents feel trapped in their own homes because of an evening. If they occupy a parking space and go out for the evening, they're in strong danger of not being able to park by their own homes. And many people that actually park on Brown Street don't live in that street at all. At Trunner Road, where there's no off-street parking, there is a problem there, of course, and problems with speeding and vehicles being damaged by the lack of due care and attention by some motorists. It was a very constructive meeting that we had, I thought, and we came to the conclusion that land that runs a junction to Ardreed Street that's not been utilised for public amenity space, as far as I'm aware, might be the solution to the problem. Rightly or wrongly, we were led to believe, I think, that we would soon be having a meeting with yourself to discuss the feasibility of these things. So I would like to ask, is such a meeting going to take place, and will it take place with some of the residents, some of which would like to have been here this evening, but for the ironic reason that I've explained, they might not have a parking space when they get back. So if you could respond to that, I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent, would you respond, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I've spoken to Andrew Kay about this in their capacity as the County Council several times. I don't mind having a meeting with you, I'm not the ward councillor, that's for you to meet with your residents. But the problem here is there's several problems, Poolfoot Farm being one. People living in smaller properties yet having multiple cars is the second problem. That side of things is a matter for the county council. Parking on the street is nothing to do with this authority. I've had this conversation with Councillor Kay, and from the information I have, it would seem appropriate for a residence parking scheme to be discussed, and there was a process to go through at LCC for that. It's been suggested to me that perhaps hasn't come forward because Wyre would have had a problem with it. I have no problem with it, and I don't know why anybody on this council would have a problem with it. It's an LCC matter, and it's nothing to do with us. The land that you mentioned is more difficult. Yes, we do own the land, but we can't just give up land that we own for residence parking schemes, in effect. We've looked at whether Poolfoot Farm are in breach of any of their planning conditions with regards to parking, and they aren't, so we can't approach them to try and get them to do anything. And we can't use the piece of land that you refer to for overflow parking for events at Poolfoot Farm because it's too far away. You know, where you have to access it, we would have to do significant works to the end of the road. Otherwise, you would have to go down Brown Street that you go down to get to access it, which has got cars on both sides. So that's not an option, and it's half a mile away. So people just probably wouldn't walk there, even if we could do it. So in effect, what we're being asked is, would we give up a piece of council land to the residents to park on? No, or if somebody wants to buy it, we had a similar approach about a piece of land in Carlton when the pub stopped people parking on the Castle Gardens. We can't just give up council land, however much people might want us to, for parking schemes because it's convenient. The correct solution, in my view, is residents parking through LCC.
Thank you. Councillor Svertico, please, your question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm taking you back to the rail. What a surprise, Point 3.3, you do say there is a progress report on the Hill House Enterprise Zone which updates, the update covers the Fleetwood to Poland rail line. Can you please point me in the right direction of where I can read this, or just tell me?
Yeah, sure.
It was within the update that we got from the EPB, which I'm happy to send to you. It doesn't say a lot. It was only very limited. If you follow Paul Maynard on social media, you'll have seen the letter that he got back from government. That's a lot more of a substantive update than anything we've seen.
Thank you. Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just in relation, following on from Councillor Fail on the Lancashire Evolution deal. Based on districts not having a seat at the table, would there ever be a time where we'd go to an earlier model where there would be the 3 super unitaries? Thank you.
Not while I'm in this chair, no. Unitary authorities can work. The reason why I would be opposed to them in the strongest possible terms for Wyre is because we would end up inevitably in a unitary authority with at least Blackpool and Fylde, and that's probably not big enough. And Blackpool as a unitary authority, not making a political point, but is £330 million in debt, spends 80% of its budget on adult social care, and has huge problems. That's not criticising them, they have huge problems. Wyre do not want to pick up that tab. We're not best served by getting into a unitary with Blackpool. We would also probably have to join a unitary with Lancaster, and anybody who knows anything about the political situation at Lancaster knows it's absolutely crazy. So we don't want to get into that with them either. So no, I don't think that is ever something that we would want to consider. I know that having previously died on the hill that they would do anything they wanted not to get into a unitary with Preston. Chorley and South Ribble now want to get into a unitary with Preston, and are now in support of a mayor, and that is clearly just because the leader of 2 of those councils like the idea of being the mayor themselves, one of whom having been turned down for the PCC job because they lost his application.
Thank you for that. And sorry, Councillor Rimmer, but obviously the 10 minutes are actually up now, so that actually concludes the leader's report. We'll now move on to the resources portfolio holder. So I can ask a question.
No, sorry, you have 10 minutes, and so the 10 minutes are
My
rolled
hand
back.
up next to him. How you missed me is unbelievable. He was there, I was next to him. I had our hands up. And you
Well,
missed
whatever
me.
it is that you want to have the leader, I'm sure you can be put in.
Well, you're in charge of who's
I know, and I've got 2 people here that have been given me. I've got a list here, so obviously I apologise if we missed you, but I'm sure later on. Yes, so the 10 minutes are up. So that concludes that report. We'll now move on to the report of the resources portfolio holder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've not much to add to the report before members. Anybody who was on audit committee for the last term will know I do have strong feelings on the way the auditors have dealt with the prior year accounts. We are now 2 years behind, and for new members, just for a bit of background, it's no fault of our officers. Our officers have met every deadline. Our external auditors have had problems with their own staffing levels, and unfortunately we're now in a position where our 2020 and 2021 and 22 counts are still outstanding. We have on good faith that the first year of accounts will be completed by September, and hopefully the next one's by November, but it's a wait and see. But just to clarify, it's no fault of our officers. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Okay, I've got a question from Councillor Egginston, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's with regards items 4.3 and 4.4 regards to the household support fund. And it's interesting on 4.3 that residents who are struggling with the cost of living increase that are not on social benefits can actually claim for this. So it's a two-part question. Is this going to be well advertised? And more interestingly, is this not an admission that the government is failing miserably in trying to handle the cost of living crisis? I mean, I wonder if £860,000 is actually enough. And on 4.4, again, there's an opportunity, it says here, for applying for such a benefit scheme. It's highlighted support fund monies awarded to the council would be awarded in April 2023, could be made in January or February. Wouldn't such benevolence be more fitting if people could apply for this in time for Christmas rather than the early spring? And that is apparently when you only apply for the thing. So two questions there, and I look forward to your response. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor McCabe, would you like to respond, please?
Mr.
Oh,
Councillor
okay,
Egginston,
sorry about
remember that
I'll get you.
button. You
I
will.
had these a few years ago.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Higginson. Yeah, I really welcome the HSF4 report. I think it's excellent. I think there are a group of people who seem to always miss out and be overlooked, and there are those people who are working hard and living just getting by, and they miss out on every round of funding. So I really welcome this. I don't think it's a criticism on the government. I think it's a really good initiative. We're working hard with the cost of living crisis. I don't take it negatively. I see this as a good news, and it will be massively promoted within the council to get this money to the right people. We have a really good history of getting these monies out very quickly to the people who need them. In response to your second point, I'm quite new to the role. I'm not sure how long these initiatives take to be processed and go through, but this is something I will speak about with Claire if we can bring that forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fielding.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question concerns item 3.1, the insurance. As this is a 3-year policy, is there any information on whether the insurer is able to increase the premium in years 2 and 3? And if so, is there a calculation for that premium to be increased? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Respond. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'm looking behind me because I don't know that off the top of my head, and Claire's writing away furiously, so we'll get a written response across to you. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Brian Stevenson.
I've asked you, Madam Mayor. Reference 4.5. Councillor Higginson has done a really good job there. He's explained it quite well. he's pointed out to this council what the problems are, and what we have to think about is what we're going to do about it. Because there certainly are problems, Madam Mayor, with record inflation, record interest rates, people having to rely on food banks. In actual fact, the only bankers people can rely on these days are those people, the good people who work hard, the volunteers who provide food banks. Now, let's come to let's think about last year. How does this compare with this year's figures? Bearing in mind, again, which I've just stated, the additional burdens that food banks have had to deal nationally with over the past 12 months. These are Tory policies, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry to be too political, but you know we need to be political about this. The problem is yours. Really, what it is, like Shakespeare said, it's a comedy of errors. Thank you.
The question there was. Thank you for that, then, Councillor. Yes, we have missed you these last 4 years. I'm sure William has as well. Shakespeare. Right, Councillor Rimmer. Hi, a short question for clarification on 5.2.1 on debt. Could you just confirm I'm reading it correctly? There seems to have been quite a large reduction in debt between 2022 and 2023 in total debt, and I wondered if this was the end of periods or a decision to pay off, etc. If you can just explain, thank you.
Are you looking at the treasury management?
Yes, is that not?
Sorry, we're on the earlier report.
No, okay, treasury's later on. I'll keep you in mind for later on, okay? Councillor Wells, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question relates to item 4.5 in relation to the HSF payments. I noticed that you've listed the food banks and Fylde Coast Women's Aid as recipients of part of the grant to distribute. I just had a question about other members of the voluntary community faith sector, if they've been given any opportunity to receive part of this grant to also distribute. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I will get that back to you. I will find out. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Is there any more questions for the portfolio? No? That concludes the consideration of the Resources Portfolio Holder Report. We'll now move on to the report of the Streets, Theme Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holders. So, Councillor Bridge, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report's in front of you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may ask.
Okay, thank you. I think we've just... Councillor Duffy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, briefly, I just want to thank Councillor Bridge and the officers. We had a very positive and productive ward walk in Fairmouth Ward. A lot of ground covered, literally, but hopefully we can look to some improvement in that area with what was discussed and hopefully what was planned. However, Councillor Bridge, paragraph 4 of your report sets out the number of offences and fixed penalty notices issued between April and May this year. A report to Cabinet in March early this year discusses the agreement with the current company Wise, and at 4.2 of that report it states, in support of employing an enforcement company, that Life in Wire survey satisfaction levels dropped to just 40% in respect of dog fouling. In respect of tackling dog fouling. It further states at 5.5 of that same report that dog fouling will be the key focus. So if dog fouling is the key focus as stated in the Cabinet report, why then, out of 408 offences shown in your current report, only 7, that's just 1.72% of the total penalty notices served that actually relate to dog fouling. Therefore, even if we round that figure up, as some used to like doing here in the ruling group, to 2%, wouldn't you still agree that it's hard to suggest that dog fouling is now a key focus here in Wyre? Dog fouling and weeds are two of the most brought up subjects on some Wyre social media sites by local people and visitors alike. And one area that is a major concern in respect to dog fouling is a lower prom from Fleetwood through to Cleves. Now, I must add, obviously most people are responsible dog owners, but as with other antisocial incidents, it is a small minority of people who allow their pets to foul in public and then fail to clean up. So, Councillor Bridge, the question is, would it be possible for the WISE team, who claim to work from 7 in the morning until 7 in the evening, be directed to the promenade areas to start patrolling at 7 a.m. as a deterrent, because this appears to be around the time that many dog fouling incidents seem to be occurring, possibly due to the fact that there are few witnesses at that time of the day. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can I respond, please? Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Duffy, it was very constructive walkabout with several of the officers the other day. And I did take the dog with me as well, didn't I? So we had dog fouling is a very, very difficult issue in that when the officers from WISE walk around, they're not specifically just looking at dog fouling, they're literally looking at everything. They don't ignore dog fouling. The problem is that we found that people will not pick up their dog poo when there's nobody about. So if there's somebody there, they will. I mean, there's many a time I've seen it walking my dog where, you know, they don't see you're there, the dog fouls and they just walk off thinking that's it. So it's a difficult one to catch, but we really are concentrating on it. The problem is it's a rather amorphous thing that we don't know how fewer people are allowing their dogs to foul. We don't know if the number of dogs have gone up because, again, we don't even have a licence anymore. But we are concentrating on that. That's important. We also, don't forget, you can report the dog fouling on our website, and they're straight in there and doing it. We are keen. We want it sorted. It's a disgusting thing. I had 3 children. I know exactly what it's like them walking through it and bringing it in the house. So we're with you on that. With regard to the team being down at 7 a.m. in the morning, we are able to direct where the team can go to. Now, obviously, it has the whole of Wyre to cover, but I would be quite happy to have a word with them and see if we could get them down there for a period of time, just to see if it works. Quite happy to do that. If it stops it, then great. And hopefully, if we catch 2 or 3 people, word will get out and people will stop doing it. So, yes, I will talk to WISE and we will try and get them down there as soon as possible to see what we can do. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Collinson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is 4.1. We're on the dog fouling route again. But this is a thank you to John Bethel and his team, because we did have a big problem at the Scots Green at Winmarley. And they have put up extra signs and they have been visiting on a regular basis. Subsequently, we have 2 fixed penalty notices, and that has been a really good deterrent because fewer and fewer people are coming. And it's very nice to see that there's 2 goalposts been put up on Scots Green now, and the kids are playing football, so they don't have to first walk the green to spot the dog poo. So will you pass on my grateful thanks to John Beckham and his team? Thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you for that. I mean, John and his team, Mark and the whole team, I always say it, but I will always say it, every meeting they are fantastic. They're proactive, they get out there, they do it. I mean, we've all had experiences of grot spots and they've gone and done it. I myself was on Macbeth Road, I think it was, in Fleetwood a couple of weeks ago. They were down there before I'd left. They were brilliant. They are brilliant, and we are very lucky to have them. And talking about the disincentive for people fouling with the 2 FPNs, who knows what we could do maybe in Fleetwood. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Brian Stevenson, please.
I'm a boss to you, Madam Mayor. This is quite an old one, so I'm going to go back into the archives a little bit. We discussed it here. I hope it's not a bridge too far. But hopefully not. And some people might think it extinct, like the dodo. But not with us, it isn't, certainly, because where I live, I continually see large dumps of rubbish, bedsteads, mattresses, all sorts dumped all over the place. It takes so much time of our splendid workforce to remove them, when they could be doing something else, Madam Mayor. They might be wanting to go and have a brew at 11 o'clock and they can't get one because somebody's rung up and said that a mattress has been dropped out or chairs or all sorts of rubbish. Do you not think it's time now that we have a word with your leader, you know, just get have a little chat with him? Do you not think it's time now that we stopped charging for rubbish dumping, that people then could ring up, make an appointment, have the lorry come to them at a certain time and remove it? That, to me, Simon, sounds to be the more sensible thing. It would be saving this borough money and it would be far more competent. Have a word with Michael. He might listen, you never know.
Would you like to respond there, Councillor Birch?
Oh, I have missed you, Brian, I really have. No, because the people who are dumping these things have a personal responsibility to get rid of it. Those who don't take up that responsibility are hardly likely to ring the council and the council say, yes, we'll be round next Wednesday at 10:30. Oh, I'll be in and get it. The scheme just doesn't work like that. People who ring up bulky matters are responsible, but that's because they've taken the first step. The people that are fly tipping are completely irresponsible. You cannot expect they will suddenly go, oh, do you know what, there's a phone line, I can ring it up and they'll come and take it away for free, because I think you're living in cloud cuckoo land if you think those that fly tip would do that, because I genuinely don't believe they will. So we've looked at other things and decided against it, such as skips, because they're unsightly. I wouldn't like a skip outside my house permanently. I don't know about you. You know, skip fires, sense of antisocial behaviour. We have to crack on as we are, and what we are doing, or we are trying in one area of Fleetwood, which came out from the other day, is that we're going to improve signage, and we're going to have a phone number and say that it will be a confidential line for people to report fly tippers. Now, I'm not saying that's going to solve the problem completely, but I think that is one thing that we can do that I think could be constructive and might be able to help in that we would stop people, some people, from putting a settee on the back of the van at one end of town and dumping it at the other. You need to talk to some of your colleagues in Fleetwood if you disagree with that, because I mean they have experience of it and they agree with me.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sturziker, please.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Thank you for mentioning the signage, because that was part of what I was going to ask you about, because some bleach you can't read them for the people who don't realise. Secondly, these officers that are going out in Fleetwood, are they allowed to hide and then jump out when an offence is committed, as this has been reported to us on numerous occasions, that they've been sat in a van, an unmarked van, and when somebody's dropped their cigarette, which they shouldn't be doing, because Fleetwood Town Council give out the ashtrays, but you know, but they do, and then they've been fined for it immediately, rather than them being walking the streets and catching the people dogfouling.
Councillor Birch, can I have a quick response, because you are that the 10 minutes are up.
Very quick response. They shouldn't break the law.
No. But it's the steep.
Well, no, if you commit the offence, you commit the offence, whether somebody's seen you or not. You commit the offence. We talked about dog fouling before. People look around when it's gone dark or whatever else, and they think they can get away with it. So, frankly, if they are hiding in the vans and catching people that are dog fouling or whatever else, they're doing a good job.
Thank you for that. Obviously, the 10 minutes are up, so that concludes the consideration of the Street Scenes, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holders report. We'll now move on to the Planning Policy Economic Development Portfolio Holder. So, Councillor Maronell, would you like to introduce your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just like to mention two meetings that I had this week. Marianne Hesketh, Sarah Adonis and myself had a very interesting meeting at Fleetwood Trust Pub with CEO Charlie Wilkinson. Interesting meeting with architect Lee Donner as well at the same time about the proposals for the building going forwards. Some really fantastic stuff that they're looking to do. And also I had a meeting with Chief Executive Rebecca Huddleston. We met with the Group Director of MPL, Mark O'Brien, and Rob Green at the Hill House Industrial Estate. My report is in front of members and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Partridge, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on point 6, I'm very pleased to see that you're looking at the wire local validation checklist. I think it will streamline the process, but can you please explain to me how this will benefit officers on a day-to-day basis, please?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, normally when an application comes in, it gets registered straight away and the clock starts ticking. And then they go through the process of starting the application, but then things come up where they need extra information about maybe noise or flooding or whatever it might be. So emails go to the applicant and then back to the officers, and then they carry on doing that all over again, and something else might come up. So it took time, and the clock was ticking all the time. They've only got a certain amount of time to do that. So then halfway through, they might actually cancel the application. So all that time has been wasted. So now with the new validation check, it's going to make a massive difference to officers, because when an application comes in now, it has to come with all the reports needed, all the evidence needed, which is going to take a lot of time from officers, not having to follow up and not having to catch up and do all of that. So that's going to make a big difference. So the time itself is going to be great, and it also means less of them will probably be cancelled, halfway through, applications cancelled halfway through because they withdraw it. So yeah, it's good for the officers. And lots of time saved. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. Councillor Rimmer, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'd be interested in more information on the meeting with NPL at the Hill House site. In the leader's report, there was something about a hydrogen steering group and a hydrogen strategy for the site. If that came up, in particular, storage, potentially underground. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Rimmer. No, nothing particular on that thing. Some things that did come up I'm sure Councillor Sturzik will be happy about this. They have made a decision about the bridge going over the rail line, which is good. They didn't want to wait any longer. They considered doing a smaller one because they went to the tram, but now they've decided to do the whole bridge. So it's going to be whatever comes through, it means it's going to happen. So, but apart from that, we didn't talk about hydrogen. So
Councillor Rimmer, I'm just going to bring in the leader as well, so there might be a bit more clarification. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We won't do this for long. As you're new, Councillor, you should have asked that part to me. The hydrogen that's mentioned in my report is not hydrogen storage, expressly not. They are looking at whether they can replace the gas on the Hill House site with hydrogen for use as energy, not hydrogen storage. That's really clear.
Okay, is there any more questions for the portfolio? No, so that concludes the consideration of the planning portfolio and economic development portfolio holders report. We'll now move on to the neighbourhood services and community safety portfolio holder. Please, so Councillor Berry, would you please introduce your report?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Paragraph 6 in my report, I've referred to the incident at the water treatment plant, and it was written quite a few weeks ago, obviously, but members will be aware that the advice not to swim or paddle in the sea was withdrawn by the Environment Agency last weekend. But I'd like to take the opportunity of thanking all the officers who worked at all hours to keep us informed of this incident, this very unfortunate incident, and in particular those officers who fought hard to put across the view that they must not have water going from the water treatment plant into the River Wyre, because it was a proposal at one stage that that was going to happen, and they forcibly put across that this must not happen to protect the Wyre and the Wyre estuary. So a lot of good work was put in by a lot of officers throughout the council. This is Alcohol Awareness Week, and community safety officers are making a presentation on alcohol issues to parents and students to secondary school in Fleetwood, and giving details of all diversionary activities that will be available over the school holidays. And finally, the other item I'd like to mention is the Police and Crime Commissioner has funded a team of 3 PCs and the PCSO to form a high visibility foot patrol in ASB hotspots in Fleetwood. Their aim is to work in the early evenings and at weekends when ASB is prevalent, and there will also be another team to concentrate on dealing with specific ASB activities in the area. My report is before councillors. I'll do my best to respond.
Thank you for that. Councillor Martin, you indicated, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, obviously, I'm back being a new councillor again, so myself and Councillor Fail are the councillors for Jubilee Ward. Now, obviously, the majority of Jubilee Ward is Cleavers Beach. It's basically all of Cleavers Beach. Now, on Sunday, July the 2nd, I was on there with my dogs, on the legal side, by the way, not the other side. Let's put that one in there. Now, there was a huge patch over all the pebbles of this horrible brown sludge. It wasn't sand after the wind. It wasn't contractor's mess. It was sewage. It was pure sewage. As I got home that afternoon, I had 2 phone calls off residents asking me the same question. So as far as I'm concerned, there is still a problem out there. And what I want to know is, what are we going to do about it? At 6:30 this morning, I was walking my dogs again. The tide was way out, and round the puddles there is still this brown sludge. So to me, that is sewage. So that sea is not safe to swim in. In 2 weeks' time, our children are on their school holidays. We're at the height of our season. Would it be better for this council to take some action now and put advisory notices up, warning people that there has been a sewage incident, and we recommend at the moment you don't swim in the sea? I'd sooner us take action and not have an incident than take no action. Thank you.
Respond there, please. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The officer has assured me that this is not sewage. He specifically informed me that it isn't. It's the churn of the seabed. Now that's what he's informed me. Now obviously I will take back to him your concerns. There are concerns obviously that we want to make sure from the EA that what the net effect of this incident has been. At the moment the EA have given the green light and are saying there has been no significant effect, but obviously we will follow that up. I mean, there are other things that I think we will want to follow up on. Is you know, how is the plant at Fleetwood going to be okay? You know, we've had an incident of a pipe that was apparently broken, and we want to make sure that the rest of the plant is obviously safe and secure. So there are issues that we'll have to follow, and we will want to take up for the protection of our residents. I will put this back to the officer, but that's what he told me. I can only pass on to you the information that he gave me, but I will pass your concerns on to him.
Thank you. Councillor Fail, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On Friday, it was reported in the Gazette that last year sewage spills into the River Wyre added up to a total duration of almost 12 weeks. 431 spillages across Wyre, including 84 at Great Eccleston pumping station, 59 at Scorton Village and 48 at Skickle. There are others. I'm just wondering, would you agree that it's time the government and the Environment Agency took action, and that this council strongly pressed for them to do just that?
Okay.
Yeah, I think I should stress that it was a Conservative government in 2010 that made water companies start to notify, put on public record that the number of spills there had been. Up to then, it had been ignored. And I can say that I think it's about 90% now of the utilities are sort of providing those details. Yes, I am concerned about the Wyre. I am concerned about those spillages. And it's one of the problems that we do have in the area is that we have a combined system of drainage of water where we have sewage and overflow from rainfall in our system, and that does present problems for when there is a heavy rainfall in the area, which we've had in the past. And we need to look to make sure that those areas, those treatment plants are up to capacity, are working okay. And I'd like to think also that we will be looking to cleanse the River Wyre even more so. It is an action that we've been starting to begin with. We started looking at waste coming from agriculture to make sure that nothing sort of escapes from farms, and it is an area now that I wish to push forward. I think it was right in the first instance that we did go for the quality of bathing waters. I think that has been the stress. I think the next stress is to improve the quality of the water coming down our rivers, and that's one of the things that over the coming months and years we need to press for in Wyre.
Councillor Cartridge, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Back in May, there was a particularly nasty blaze at the Mount Hotel in Fleetwood, and I got in contact with a few of the residents who lived there, but also some people on the board of the Mount Hotel. And there's a lot of vulnerable people living above that pub, and I would just like to pass on their thanks and their gratitude to Councillor Berry, but also to the many officers who really helped out to make the transition into temporary accommodation successful. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. I found it quite remarkable the resilience of those people. Most of them were elderly, how they dealt with the fact that effectively they lost their homes. And I'm so pleased that I think most of them, if not all of them, have been able to find alternative accommodation. But I think it was good that our housing team did get down there straight away to give some sort of reassurance, and went to see them from time to time and try and help to clarify the insurance situation, which was very worrying at the time. And I'm more than pleased that they've been able to find somewhere else to live, and they were so pleased to have that support from the council.
Thank you. Next, Councillor Higginson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just seek your guidance, actually. I've got a question about unpleasant smells, but I don't mean in this council chamber. I hasten to add. I seek your guidance as to whether it's Councillor Berry or is it Councillor Bowen that would deal with this matter as a newcomer?
What are they emanating from?
Well, it's unpleasant smells that residents on Holy Gardens have been expressing to me, and I don't know which is the appropriate department, but well, I'll ask anyway.
If not, I'm sure we can get
some. You can both have a go if you want.
Yeah, if not,
I'll get two answers for the price of one.
Carry on.
It's just a quick question. Me again, I've been quite busy, but I've had lots of, I'm sure my colleagues also, about smells, these unpleasant smells, residents on Holy Gardens, and I think it's associated with Lancashire Renewables, it would appear, not something that's, it's indeed something that appears to be going on for several years now. So I was wondering, is there any guidance on this, and can we offer some explanations, and you know, can we get to the bottom of this? It seems to be going on an awful long time. It's a new issue for me, of course, but for whoever's responsible, these are the smells to which I'm referring. Thank you.
Do you want to respond to that, please? If not, we'll get to the report.
I think my quick response is that it's probably Councillor Bowen now. I hope she agrees. Yeah, so I'll swerve that one.
Yeah, very good. I congratulate you on your body swerve.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I'll bring Councillor Beavers in then now, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to clarify, really, when you was mentioning the wonderful work of the Conservative Party bringing in the data that told us when the water company was putting poo in our rivers and in our seas, that it was actually Margaret Thatcher, the hero of the Conservative Party, that privatised the water companies, the gas companies, the electricity companies, British Telecom and everything else, and now we're paying the price of it with our gas and electricity bills and poo going into our seas. So thank you very much, Conservative.
You're welcome.
If that is the last question for the portfolio holder, well, that concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety portfolio holders report. We'll now move on to the report of the Leisure, Health and community engagement for portfolio holder. So, Councillor Bowen, would you like please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only thing I've got to add is that the question time event that was taking place at the Marine Hall was actually on tonight, so I think that will be filmed later on this evening by the BBC. Apart from that, my report's before you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Is Councillor Higginson's follow-on question from before?
Yes. I've already said it. If you rewind the tape, I've already said it.
I've written down where it is, and I'm going to. I'll ask Neil Green tomorrow and see what if he knows anything about it.
Sorry.
Okay.
So you've got the response there, thank you. Councillor Duffy, please, your question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bowen, I'm sure you're aware of the recent destruction of 3 of Fleetwood's beach huts, and equally aware of the possible financial impact on the council due to issues surrounding the fact that the insurance possibly won't cover the cost of the rebuild. For those that don't know the history behind the beach huts, the initial decision to lease them out was taken in 2004. This was despite widespread public opposition. Petitions were signed, proposals submitted around increasing the rent to cover costs, thus enabling them to remain fully under council control, and more importantly, available to rent by the many and not the few as it is now. However, it didn't succeed. Minutes from the Cabinet meeting in January 2004 document that one of the prime reasons for the action to lease off the huts was, and I quote, they would be subject to less vandalism. And the documented reason for decision to make budget savings by avoiding significant building and maintenance costs. So, the fact that 3 beach huts have been totally destroyed does somewhat negate the major reasons given by Cabinet in 2004. The beach huts are leased out in 3 phases with different dates for renewal for the leases of each phase. Phase 1, which is on a 20-year lease and consists of 29 of the huts, is due for renewal in May next year. So what I'd like to ask Councillor Bowen is that these huts are not put out for leasing but brought back to council and rented out to the general population. Obviously I know finances will have to be closely scrutinised, but can we at least look at whether it is feasible to let many more families have the chance to enjoy these facilities and not just a select few? Thank you.
Would you like to respond, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure that decision will be discussed and will probably come to Cabinet or the Council. But the fact that they were leased, and they were set on fire has got nothing to do with them being rented. I mean, even if they owned them, they probably still would have been set on fire. It's to do with the terrible vandalism that we've got in Fleetwood. And also the council is feeling the brunt of all the antisocial behaviour, particularly the Marine Hall.
Thank you. Councillor Lady Dulcie Atkins, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, just to say thank you. We've got the screen working in the Tourist Information Centre and it's working well. And also I'd like to thank the officers who, when the Art Society who rent the little grammar school asked for help as regards their leaflets to advertise the various activities that are being held in Garstang. They were very helpful, and also to let the local residents know what is actually happening in Little Grammar School, because it all helps to get people along to these various clubs. So thank you very much to the officers for that. Thank you.
I'll pass that on, yeah. We're always looking for new businesses to put on the Discover Wire website, to try and attract more and more visitors to the borough. So if anybody knows any new businesses that tourists might be interested in, yeah, we can put everything on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, did you indicate no? I know, right, that's great, thank you. Any more questions for Councillor Bowen? No? That concludes the consideration of the Leisure Health Community Engagement Portfolio Holders Report. Now is the opportunity for the members of the Cabinet to make comments or questions on the reports to their colleagues. So the Cabinet, yes, Councillor Vincent, would you like to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a comment with regards to what Councillor Duffy's just said. She criticised the decision that was made to save money on repairing and maintaining beach huts that was made 19 years ago, and in that time we have spent nothing on any of those beach huts. I'd call that a successful policy rather than a failure. The a lot of the beach huts that she refers to, my understanding, and I won't say too much about it, is regarding some very specific activity that led to those being destroyed. It's not routine vandalism for all intents and purposes, it is something very specific. When the leases run out, our hands may be tied by the leases. We may not be able to offer them to anybody else. They may have a right of renewal, and if the people who have them already have a right to exercise that right, then our hands are tied.
Sorry,
No, it's not.
a question of each other, not answering
No,
what
I can make a
Councillor
statement,
Bromwich
Madam Mayor.
have asked me.
I can make a statement that I'm making a statement. Madam Mayor, we will look at our options, but let me be really clear about this. This council is not going to get into the business of letting beach huts for profit, because when you do anything like that through a public authority, it's really expensive, we don't do it particularly well, and it's not a good use of public funds. If those huts can be brought back and then leased out to a commercial partner who wishes to run it as a business, that they then go to as many or as few or whoever she wants them to go to, that is something that we would consider, but we're not going to get into the beach hut business because that's not what councils are for.
Thank you for that. Is there any other Cabinet members who want to comment on the questions of their colleagues? No. So that concludes the consideration of the Executive's report. We'll now move on to the agenda item 8, which is the Treasury Management Outcome Report. So, Councillor Mackay, would you please introduce your report and propose a recommendation, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to take any comments. I'll answer them as best I can.
Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Please second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Obviously, Councillor Rimmer, you indicated before. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, in the wrong section, but I had just a question for clarification on the debt on 5.2.1, as it seemed to have gone down quite substantially, and I wondered if it was the end of a period or a decision to pay from reserves or anything, just a clarification really.
Thank you for that. Yes, if you move on to my note 5.5.6, the council is actually debt free now. It was just all repaid in the current year, and we actually made a bit of an interest saving as well there, so we are now debt free.
Councillor Martin, did you indicate, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see in the report at 5.55, it says the Bank of England is embarking on a process of quantitative tightening, but the scale and pace of this has already been affected by the Trust Quartan fiscal experiment. Now, would she agree with me that the residents of this borough, myself and everybody else, did not agree to be part of a fiscal experiment? Now, this is a public document. Could I suggest that the word fiscal experiment be changed to fiscal catastrophe? Because that's what it was. And I would like Councillor McKay's reply to that, please.
Thank you for that, Councillor Martin. I'm not sure about it being changed to catastrophe, but I do share your point. I think fiscal experiment is poor wording, and we'll look at that. So thank you for that.
Is there any more comments, questions or amendments there? No. Okay, Councillor, as a proposer, well, you've obviously responded to the debate, so yes. So would members vote now on the recommendation? Those in favour, please show.
With an amendment.
Thank you, that's a unanimous decision, so thank you, that's it, recommendation is approved. The next item is item 9, appointments to committees, panels and groups, the updated report. So Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose a recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to propose a recommendation in regards to 3.4. I never thought a chair of the committee would be sad to lose Lorraine Beavers.
Is there a seconder for the proposal, please?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Are there any comments, questions or amendments? Councillor Higginson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel that I ought to raise a comment on 4.1. My colleague Councillor Stevenson was cut rather short earlier at the beginning of this meeting, and I'd like to offer my congratulations to the new ward members from Warren, and welcome to Wyre Council. Welcome back to Wyre Council.
That has already been commented this morning. That was commented before when I mentioned to the announcements.
Yes, and I'd like to ask, are you aware of the differences we'll now make to the Wyre Labour Group? The Wyre Labour Group that keeps growing, It has become known as the Magnificent Seven team now, the Wyre Labour Group. Madam Mayor, are you aware that we will be saddling up and moving into this borough? We'll be watching out for the outlaws and the bandits, and we will be looking for the sheriff of this borough.
This got you. Obviously, the leader of the Labour group, are you?
Asking the question, yes.
Right, question, please.
I am asking the question. Are you aware that we will be aware of looking out for bandits? We will have Spurs with us. There'll probably be a few Blackpool fans as well, one or two that army, no doubt. But when we find the sheriff, Councillor Vincent and his deputies, we will have a list of demands, and of course there will be rewards as well. And those rewards will be an improvement in the quality of life for people within Wyre. And we might even be looking at resurrecting the old railroad from Fleetwood to Bolton. And if Paul Maynard is aware...
Councillor Higginson, is there a question in this?
Yes, are you aware? Are you
well, I'm not sure we're going to it, but if you could just...
That's the railroad. For Paul Maynard, if he wishes to remain in part of this town, it's about trains, not trams. So congratulations to my two colleagues, and partners, let's hope we celebrate these achievements with a hoedown and not a showdown. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The next, well actually it's the leader of the Labour Party I've got next, Councillor Fayle. If that's correct.
Yeah, I'm quite been promoted to the leader of the Labour Party yet. But thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a few years to go yet, you never know. Just with regard to the chairs and vice chairs, it was disappointing that these were seemingly predetermined before May's council. It's worth noting that some councils, the chair of the scrutiny committees, are often a member of the opposition. And given the increased Labour numbers, wouldn't it have been better to have a fair proportion of chairs and vice chairs from each party? That matter has been settled for the moment, but perhaps you could consider a more equitable approach next year. You could think of it like this: you'd be helping to make for a much smoother transition to a Labour council in 2027.
Councillor Higginson, would you like to cover? Oh, do you want to respond to that? Yes, go on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make the comment that I felt it's important that we stay in the realms of reality when we discuss things in this chamber, and not in the realms of fantasy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would you like to respond there, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not too sure who the leader of the group is anymore.
Well, I don't.
Councillor Fayle, you are welcome to go and sit on one of those councils if you would like to be the chair of the Overview Scrutiny Committee, but while we have a majority, we will pick the chairs.
Okay. Yes. Councillor Minto, would you like to just quickly come in?
It's my understanding that all of the Magnificent Seven are deceased.
But not the Magnificent
Thank you. We're not having a debate over here. Okay, thank you. So that concludes the debate. So would members please vote now on the recommendation? Those in favour, please show. Yes, that's unanimous. The recommendation is approved. The next item is item 10, calendar of meetings 2023/24, and the update 24/25. Councillor Finch, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As I think I alluded to last time, this is just because people need to know what they're doing and plan their diaries a few months in advance. So we've published the agenda for the calendar of meetings for the next 2 years, so you can plan a bit further ahead.
Okay, is there a second for the proposal, please?
A second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And I've got Councillor Fayle to come in now. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to give you some feedback, but it looks like you already got it. We will. I've been practising in. That's the new leader of the Labour Party. We will support the recommendation, but as a general point, can we ask that the dates of audit and licensing be reconsidered where they clash with Fleetwood Town Council and or any of the parish councils? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Look, this comes up time and time again. The problem with Council Fail is if it doesn't clash with that, it clashes with something else. There aren't many nights that are good for a lot of people. So I would say that if Fleetwood Town Council clashes with two of the committees, it's for you as leaders to put your members onto the committees.
Any more questions there? No? Right. That concludes the debate. So would members please vote on the recommendation? Those in favour, please show.
Okay, that's it.
Unanimous decision. Thank you very much. The recommendations are approved. The next item is item 11, a notice of motion. This motion has been submitted by Councillor Rendell, Lady Dulcie Atkinson, Sir Robert Atkinson and Councillor Lamarino, and set out as a full agenda on item 11. Councillor Rendell, would you please propose the motion with a maximum of 5 minutes? Okay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the motion that this council is against any change to the national planning policy that would make it easier to build on Greenbelt.
Thank you. Councillor, you've got
I'll
second.
second that.
That's
Reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
That's fine, thank you. Would any members who wish to speak for it or against the motion, or any, would you please indicate now, and you have maximum 5 minutes. Sir Robert, please.
No, I was going to say I reserve my right to speak.
That's fine, thank you. Fielding, please. Councillor Fitz, sorry. I'm just getting you, I've got a little map on here and I'm going round you, but then you move sometimes and I've got to try to find out where everybody is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Well, the Greenbelt, an emotive issue countrywide. Well, let's talk about the Wyre Greenbelt. Now, I'm a newcomer to the area and I was surprised to find out when I did a bit of research that the only designated Greenbelt land in Wyre Borough is situated in Fleetwood and Poulton-le-Fylde. Now, Poulton-le-Fylde, this is where the last Tory council approved proposals for hundreds of homes, and there's more coming down the line. Now, coupled with the track record of removing land from the Greenbelt, it seems to me that the Wyre Greenbelt is in more danger from this Conservative administration than anything else. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to bring in the leader now, please.
Absolute rubbish, Madam Mayor. The Greenbelt was reclassified by national government, and the Greenbelt in Carlton that I assume he's referring to was Greenbelt for years, and we fought to keep it as Greenbelt. But Greenbelt, by its very definition, is a belt of land between two towns, and unfortunately, those that don't know Wyre as well as we do believe that Poulton-le-Fylde includes Carlton. So it cannot have been a belt of land between two towns, as Carlton and Poulton-le-Fylde are the same. But don't let them peddle this myth about who's building the houses on that piece of land, Madam Mayor, because 330 of them are being built by the Labour-controlled Blackpool Council. So if you want to talk about who builds what in Wyre, at least we don't dump our housing problems on the doorstep of other areas, try and blame the other political party for it, take the cash and waste it on whatever they're going to spend it on this 5 minutes. It's nonsense, Madam Mayor. This authority has never built or allowed building on Greenbelt land other than the defined exemptions such as sports events, etc., 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 that are allowed and are permitted. We do not allow the building on the Greenbelt land, and the developing on Greenbelt land is not in the best interest of this borough. And anybody who suggested it is or isn't or doesn't vote with this motion cannot then come in here and pretend to have any sort of mandate about climate change. And Madam Mayor, with that in mind, please, myself and the Cabinet, and they will indicate, would like a recorded vote.
Okay. Councillor Fayle, I'll bring you in now, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's unclear whether this simplistic one-sentence motion is serious, as it specifies no action for the council, the chief exec or the leader. It seeks to achieve nothing other than, perhaps, a misplaced notion that some political point could be made. Changes to national planning policy is not within this council gift to directly affect. It is, however, within this council's gift to directly affect what housing allocations are put in place and where they are located. When I read the motion, I found it somewhat dumbfounding because it's been consecutive Conservative administrations who have been responsible for the loss of huge swathes of green, open space across Wyre over many decades. This has left Wyre in an unenviable position. Firstly, with regard to an acknowledged shortfall in both formal and informal public open space in all towns of Wyre. Secondly, with regard to the inadequate transport system and the daily traffic jams. Thirdly, with regard to the infrastructure deficit. New Homes Bonus was meant to support infrastructure improvements, but instead it's been used to prop up the council's finances and reduce the cuts in services. We do need new housing, but it does need to be in the right places. And although I agree with the general sentiment of the motion, I'm much more interested in ensuring that the loss of any green fields, not just Greenbelt, to development are kept to a minimum. And from my understanding of what some in national politics are saying, the intention to give local councils more power to choose what to do, a positive move could actually help Wyre. Given the submission of this motion, I'm now expecting that when the new draft local plan is put together, the Conservative councils will take a lot more interest in its impact than they did the last one and the one before that. It is our own local plan that we should be concentrating on, not this simplistic motion that achieves nothing. And as well as investing more effort in the local plan, how about this council attempts to make better use of Wyre's current housing stock, brings the standard of the current housing stock up to scratch, brings more empty and run-down properties back into use, bears down on second home ownership and brings in regulation to stop big increases in Airbnbs, both issues that reduce housing supply, undermining the quest to eradicate homelessness. Ensures brownfield sites are developed in preference for greenfield. We could talk about Greenbelt policy all night, but it's fairly academic exercise when Wyre has got some way to go before it can say it is successfully managing its current housing stock. Actions speak louder than words.
Can I beg you and Mr. Robert to speak?
Madam Mayor, thank you very much indeed. I wasn't intending to speak, and indeed I think I'm reasonably heartened by the content of what Councillor Fayle has just said, in the sense that he understands that the Green Belt is not just the Green Belt, but also green fields and surrounding areas. Now, some colleagues may well know that I was in the former incarnation the Minister responsible for planning for the environment and for the countryside. And one of the organisations with whom I had a great deal to do and supported was the Campaign for the Protection of Rural England. And they produced a report in December this year, last year rather, in which they indicated that actually there are something like 23,000 sites, brownfield sites, on which development could take place, which would provide something like 1.25 million houses. And so therefore the concentration surely should be, whether from the borough perspective, the county, or the national perspective, should be on brownfield sites, not just greenfield sites. So as I say, I'm slightly heartened by what Councillor Fayle has to say. It seems to me that he and his colleagues have no alternative but to support this motion. The only constraint that might be upon them, of course, Madam Mayor, is the fact that the real leader of the Labour Party has made it crystal clear that he's going to take on the NIMBYs, i.e. a lot of our constituents, who are concerned about housing developments and the lack of infrastructure and support that goes with it. I don't want to open that debate, Madam Mayor, and it's not the time to do so, but I would just ask the present leader of the Labour Party here to convey the message to the leader of the Labour Party there that we as a borough collectively don't agree with building on the Green Belt, or indeed any sort of building that constrains the countryside, of which we have more than our fair share in wire. So I look forward, Councillor Fair, to you joining us on the new subcommittee relating to climate change, where we can talk about some of these things and know that we are working together in the same direction to make sure that the leader of the Labour Party down there doesn't run away with the idea that Greenbelt and NIMBYs are to be attacked.
Did you speak? No, come in
I
there.
don't, everything has been said now.
Well, I've got Councillor Brian Stevenson.
Last year, Madam Mayor. Just a remark which Councillor...
You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
He obviously took up the remark which Councillor Fielding said, which he did say, was that he hasn't lived here for long. And he responded, did Councillor Vincent, by saying he obviously doesn't know enough of wire like we do. So I would have thought that was, sort of a bit of under the belt remark. Yeah. He doesn't know. Well, he does know. He represents Carlton, where you used to represent, which you left. And he also lives in Wyre, unlike you, who lives in Lytham. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, thank you, Councillors. Councillor Rendell, as the proposer of the motion, would you please respond to the debate? Well, I think it's already just move it. Are we to move it? Recorded. No, we'll move it. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. So we're going to have a
Madam Mayor, before a comment will indicate for the written vote.
Well, stand up then, you're supposed to stand up.
To indicate.
Right, okay.
Right, on the three. Right, thank you. Right, Rebecca now is going to do that. Right.
Okay, so I will read out the name of each councillor in turn in alphabetical order. When your name is called, would you please state how you wish to vote on the proposed motion, either for, against or abstain. So, Councillor Amos.
For.
Councillor Lady Atkins.
For.
Councillor Sir Robert Atkins.
For.
Councillor Baxter.
For. Councillor Stevenson, would you like to just put your mic off, please? Put your mic off, we know what you're going to vote.
Councillor Beavers.
For.
Councillor Berry.
For.
Councillor Birch.
For.
Councillor Blair.
For.
Councillor Bolton.
For.
Councillor Bowen.
For.
Councillor Bridge.
For.
Councillor Cartridge.
For.
Councillor Catterall.
For.
Councillor Collington.
For.
Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Ellenson.
For.
Councillor Fail.
For.
Councillor Fielding.
For.
Councillor Higginson.
17.
Don't confuse me. Councillor Higgs.
For.
Councillor Ibbotson.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Kay.
For.
Councillor Marinell.
For.
Councillor Lee.
For.
Councillor Livesey.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor McKay.
For.
Councillor Meekins.
For.
Councillor Minto.
For.
Councillor Molyneux.
For.
Councillor Nichols.
For.
Councillor Preston.
For.
Councillor Rayner.
For.
Councillor Rendell.
For.
Councillor Rimmer.
For.
Councillor Waddington. Councillor Rushforth. Councillor Smith. Councillor Brian Stevenson. Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Sturziker. Councillor Swatton. Councillor Swift. Councillor Thulis. Councillor Vincent. Councillor Walker. A. Walker. Councillor C. Walker. Councillor Bowers?
4.
Okay, that's unanimous.
So the motion is carried. Thank you. So that concludes the business for the evening, and the meeting is now closed at 8:30. So thank you very much for everybody for attending.